Hello dosto, my name is Deepak and I'm a tax code advisor. Today I want to talk to you about Indian economy. I know I'm in the United States. Why should I talk about Indian economy? Well, that is because a lot of my clients are from India, and oftentimes I hear stories from them as to how come they lost a lot of money in real estate, in the Indian stock market. And then on the other hand, I talk to some people who are doing very well. And recently there has been a lot of conversations around that topic, mainly because of Trump presidency. So what is happening in the United States is that people are super excited about the next 4 years. And the reason behind that is because Trump has talked about how he's going to boost the economy. He has talked about bringing the interest rates down. How he would do that, that's kind of weird because he doesn't really directly control the interest rate, but that's a different story. He has also talked about increasing supply for housing. That means he's going to bring the inflation down. Housing is one of the big contributor to inflation in the United States. He's also talked about getting rid of a lot of US debt. That means US dollar will become even more stronger, which is going to hurt other economies, including India, and more than likely we'll see 10 to 20% depreciation in Indian rupee if Trump is able to do what he says he's going to be able to do. And obviously he's promised to end the wars, and looks like he's on that path. We already heard that Ukraine is ready to compromise, so that's an update. And Trump even recently tweeted to Hamas that, hey, you better be ready to end this because once I take an office, it's going to be super bad. So, overall, if you look at the narrative right now, people are seeing that Trump is going to fix a lot of things. And that's why markets are going to rise. We saw that for 2024, markets are up almost 24%. Imagine somebody has $5 million, $10 million sitting in their retirement right now. Boom, in 2024, they are golden. So now there are two thoughts. One thought is people are going like, well, markets are all-time high, real estate is all-time high, crypto is all-time high. There's a very good chance market can crash in 2025. But then there's another thought that market will continue to grow and we will probably have another double-digit gain in 2025 because things just don't slow down. Momentum is a very powerful force. People don't realize it. Things need to really break for market to kind of give up those gains. And there isn't really no reason for things to break right now because no matter what Trump does, I think that impact will take some time. It's not going to happen right away. It's going to take some time. So I want to talk to you about some of the facts around Indian economy. It's going to help some of you guys who are thinking about moving funds from United States to India in 2025, or perhaps you're already heavily invested in India and you might not know some of the things that are happening in India right now. So I'm going to be quick, but at least I'm going to enable you with a lot of data. So that way, next time somebody is having a conversation with you about Indian economy, you have some specific numbers with you. All right, so let's get started. Number one, Indian economy has slowed down. So we saw that their GDP growth rate has slowed down to 5.4%. The government of India would like it to be 7 or 8%. And the IMF and World Bank has said that the number is more than likely going to be around 6%. We really need to catch up with China. That's our goal. That's where we are trying to go. Right now, I think we're the fourth largest economy, and perhaps by next year we'll be the third largest economy. But to get to the second, to kind of compete with China, we have a lot of work to do. And one of the biggest problems we have right now is our GDP per capita. I think as of today, we're sitting on approximately $2,400 per capita income in India. Versus if we compare that to China or Brazil, for example, China, I think, is around 12,000 and Brazil is roughly at 9,000. That means an average Indian is simply just not making enough money. We need to help average Indian make more money if we want to compete with other countries. And I'll talk about some of the reasons why that is the case. India is not about Hyderabad and Gurgaon. When we talk about India, we're talking about the entire subcontinent, and that's a lot of people. A couple of main reasons that comes to my mind is obviously agriculture, which employs 60% of our population. And agriculture sector just doesn't really pay that well. And I think the contribution to GDP is roughly around 15%. So that's a big problem for India. We need to really figure out a way so that people employed in agriculture sector are making more money and they're contributing more to to GDP. Maybe we need to set up some universities, some schools, maybe some vocational training centers, maybe even hire people from overseas like Israel to come out and teach how we can improve our agriculture, which is so important, not just to India, but to the rest of the world, because we provide food security to a lot of countries. So I don't think we should get rid of agriculture sector. I don't think we should start moving people from agriculture to other sectors either. I think we need to really provide more support. Now, Modi government was trying to do something in agriculture earlier, but they were not able to get that to conclusion, and they had to reverse some of the policies. But I'm talking about more from an educational point of view. I think if we can get some of these farmers to start making more money, I think that will go a long way in helping India's GDP. So like I said, agriculture sector employs almost 60% of our population, but the contribution to GDP is only 15%. Another problem is manufacturing. So industrial growth in India has slowed down as well, usually around 15 to 17%. But why are we not growing? That's the question we should be asking. Oftentimes people give me stories like, oh, Apple has just set up a factory there. Now we are producing more Apple phones. Okay, so what? So we got one product there. We need to do so much more. I mean, we are stuck at that 15 to 17% mark for a very long time. When are we going to get to 25, 30, 40%? We should be growing manufacturing in India. That is just simply not happening, and nobody is talking about that. Another issue is just the way our economy is structured. So Indian economy is mostly consumer-based. That means almost 60% is based on consumption. We are just not doing enough export. And when we are doing export, it's usually food, it's textile, it's maybe some IT, but most of it is low margin products. We are not exporting high-end stuff. We're not exporting electronics. We're not exporting weapons or some sort of technology that can help us earn a lot of margin. So that's another big problem that we need to deal with. Education. Education is a huge problem in our country, and the world knows India for its engineers, for its doctors, for its scientists. All of that is true. However, India allocates only 3.1% of its GDP to education. 3.1%. That's nothing. We need to grow that to 7, 8, 10% at the bare minimum. We're spending more money on so many other sectors, on Social Security and other stuff, but we are not doing enough to help our young people make more money. That is where the problem is. And if you remember in this election, when all the opposition parties got together, that was the main point. They were trying to tell average Indian that we're not doing that well. But obviously Modi has his influence, and he was able to win anyway. But nonetheless, that problem still exists. Now, some of you may say, oh, wait a minute, we have IITs, we have so many medical colleges, we have so many scientists. I give that to you. I agree with you. The question I'll ask you is, where do we rank in the global rankings? Would you know? Would you think would be, India today, I think is 4th largest economy, right? And pretty soon we're going to be 3rd largest economy. Where do you think the 3rd largest economy in the world should rank on education index in a world forum? Wouldn't you think that should be at least in top 10? Well, guess what? We are, I think, 70th or 75th percentage point. That means we are way down there. We need to really make a lot of progress. So nowhere close. Like I said, the Indians, I'm talking about average Indian, not all of you guys who are from IITs and medical schools. Average Indians, 25% of workforce in India is formally skilled. Now, it used to be a lot better before British came to India, but we haven't fixed anything. I shouldn't say anything. We have fixed a lot of things, but just not enough. 25% is not enough. We need to get that number to 75%. In most developed countries, like, for example, Germany, that number will be almost 80%. So we cannot be developing country for a very long time. We need to be a developed country by now. So we need to realize and accept that we are behind. Unemployment stands at 8%. So that's a big problem for a big country like ours. And then more importantly is, what about our youth, right? That's where a lot of problems come from. Every time I talk to people about India, what do they tell me? They say, look, India has a lot of youth. Yes, but 20% of it is unemployed. And when your youth is unemployed, that's a big problem for your country. They all of a sudden become liability. They start damaging stuff. They start become aggressive. They start, mess things up. Not a good idea. We need to figure out a way to employ our youth, and not just like low paying jobs. We need them to be able to compete in India. For that, we need to provide them education. So those are some of the challenges that I am seeing right now. Trade deficit is another big problem. India's trade deficit, right, I think back in October of 2024, was $24 billion. Now, if you compare that, for example, with China, which is doing almost $80 to $100 billion in surplus, India's global share in exports is barely 2%. Compare that to China, which is sitting at 15%. So if we want to compete, we need to start building products in India that have high margin, and we want to be able to export them on our own terms, where people are not telling us that we are going to pay the bare minimum price for them. Our government, for example, Modi government, had recently set up economic zones. We heard the story about Gujarat and many other ones, but they keep changing the policies. Sometime this policy, that policy. You want to attract multinational companies to set up their plants there. They want a stable India. They want to be there for a long time. In order for them to be staying there for a long time, they need consistent policy. You can't be changing the policies around. China moved 800 million people out of poverty in the last 40 years. India did very well as well, but we're still lagging behind. So there's some work needs to be done there. Subsidies. India spends $40 billion in food subsidy. Why do you think that is? If we're doing so well, if our economy is so well, and if people have jobs, who is getting $40 billion? Is that going in corruption, or is that going to help poor people? The answer is probably poor people. That's where the problem is. We have a lot of poor people in India that still need food subsidy. That is not good for third or fourth largest economy in the world. We have a lot of work to do. Taxation is another issue. Oftentimes, India keeps changing its tax policies. So people, but again, the US does the same thing. So I'm not really worried too much about that. But what I am worried about is a lot of tax comes in the form of GST in India. And every time I go to India, people tell me, oh, look how much more we have collected in GST. Look how much more. But who pays GST? Can I ask you that? I mean, GST is paid by a consumer, right? You're looking to grow your income tax base. You want more people in your country to pay income tax. You're not able to grow that. That base is still very, very low. You're only generating more revenue because 60% of your economy is local consumption. You have more people are consuming more, and that's why your GST continues to grow. India needs to focus on growing their local income tax base. So those are some of the problems that I'm seeing. As far as employment is concerned, one point I do want to make though is, the government of India, what they have said is, look, what we are going to do is we're going to invest in infrastructure, okay? And they should. They need to build better ports, better airports, more roads. They need to build world-class infrastructure. So I'm with them with that, right? But on the other hand, they're also focusing a lot on digitalization. And when you make things digital, what happens? These low-paying jobs start to disappear. People working in the government offices, people doing regular jobs, people who are doing accounting, paperwork, all of those starting to kind of disappear. So I think you're getting rid of all these low-paying jobs, and you're not creating enough high-paying jobs, and your population is growing, and you have a lot of young people in the country. All of them are pointing to a problem. Okay. Again, this video was not supposed to be to talk about, give you a rosy picture of India. We can do that in a separate video, but I wanted to kind of point out some of the issues that I see again and again whenever we have this conversation around India. So India is obviously has talked about also bringing a lot of foreign investment. They have talked about, having companies like Tesla set up plants and manufacturing in India. But I think that would only happen if India can help these companies get land. India can help them set up plants and guaranteeing them stable taxation policies, stable export policies, import policies. I think the whole ecosystem for business needs to be in place if we want to continue on that path. For the time being, I find Indian economy to be quite challenging. I think the switch can flip off at any time. What's driving India is because when we look around the rest of the world, India sounds to be a very compelling story. And that is what's driving the momentum. But if we take a look at the fundamentals, they are simply not there. Okay. India can very well just continue to grow. We saw that Nifty 50 hitting all-time high in spite of all the problems that I talked about. So it is possible. But if I compare those kind of issues with countries like United States, I find a little bit more safety and security right now in US. That's why I prefer to do most of my investments in the United States. Now, I don't want to encourage you one way or the other. I just wanted to share the facts with you. So that way, next time you're having this conversation, you are able to question them and you're able to have a genuine conversation. So thank you so much for spending your last 15 minutes with me, but I would like to hear your thoughts. So if you don't mind, in the comments, tell me why you agree or disagree with me. What do you think India can do differently? Where do you think India is lacking? Do you think that we should invest in India? We should invest in the United States? What are some of your favorite sectors? What are some of the positive sides of India? Share that with me. That way we can talk about it in the next video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'll look forward to serving you next time. If you have a tax question or need help filing your taxes, just reach out to me from taxcodeadvisors.com. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.